awarded the Library Award for 2021. So the Library Officer of the Year, I'll just call them all out first, and I'll do a little bit of a blurb for everyone. Library Officer of the Year is Lisa Freeman from Scotch College. Library Technician of the Year is Sarah Sarmadin from Notre Dame Catholic Primary School. Teacher Librarian of the Year is Daryl Fernandez from Perth College. And Library of the Year is Linwood Senior High School Library. So congratulations. Lisa, if you can make your way down to the front, please.
Okay.
Thank you. This is for you.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
And Okay. Lisa is a valued and key member of the Scotch Library team, and I'm reading this from the information that was submitted as part of Lisa's nomination package written by Brad. I'm always in awe of her ability to command the attention of our smallest patrons, but also to have a meaningful conversation with our middle school boys around their interests. Talk to students and staff, and often works above and beyond to make sure that the library is seen in the best possible light. Lisa is able to upgrade all of our digital products, adjust Oliver records, and most importantly, she recommends books to the teacher librarians that fit our purchasing priorities. Her knowledge of the collection and books in general is second to none in our libraries. During the COVID shutdown, Lisa also continued to work hard, taking home work and producing videos for story time and activity packs for our Little Pipers parents. Lisa always contributes to the strategic development of the library, don't cry. She contributes to policy improvements when asked and highlights efficiencies that can be improved on. And Lisa is a very worthy recipient of the 2021 WASLA Library Officer of the Year Award. You can have the floor if you like.
Oh, okay. I've got my 5 points. Thank you, everyone. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you for the nomination, Brad. Thank you for choosing me. Alicia, I really appreciate this recognition. It's been a while since I've felt really comfortable where I'm at in the library world. My team is amazing. Like, we really support each other. Mental health is a priority. Families are a priority. We welcome families from the community, as well as forging these fantastic relationships with the parents. So I feel really privileged to be able to work with Scotch in that way. The Scotch motto is know the boy, and I find that with knowing the boy, we also kind of find out more about ourselves. Like, we have these wonderful conversations with each other, and it's like this common humanity that we really build on. And I hadn't experienced that before now, because this is my first school library job. So I just want to say thank you again. And this is amazing. This is such an honor. Thank you very much.
Okay, the Library Technician of the Year is Sarah Salmadin from Notre Dame Catholic Primary School.
Feels a bit easier every time you're on.
Sarah is a respected and highly valued member of Notre Dame Catholic Primary School. Don't run away. She's a very talented library technician who undertakes her duties with pride, perception and precision. She is motivated to provide an incredibly high level of service to both students and staff and forms excellent working relationships with everyone. Sarah displays initiative in all areas within her role, and this enables the library to operate at a very high level of proficiency. The school library is in the process of being, it's just been updated. Yesterday, today?
Yesterday and today,
Okay.
yes.
Some library, some photos on boards on it, so
Yes,
Sarah's going to
yes.
get them to us over the next
Brand
couple
new
of days.
furniture, so it's been great. Yeah.
Excellent. So the library has just been updated, and Sarah has been integral to ensuring that the choices made provide an environment which is functional, attractive and engaging. Sarah always goes above and beyond expectations to provide for her school community needs and ensures that our library is a place of high activity, creativity and fun. She has helped to establish and run a Makerspace program, a reading club and a STEM program within the library. And during COVID, Sarah continued her library services through the creative interactive videos which students could watch through Seesaw. Sarah is a sole person in the library, and this requires her to continually reflect on the evolving needs of the school. She works hard to maintain students and staff engagement with the library, as she believes that one of the key goals of the primary school library is supporting literacy outcomes for our students. By promoting reading for pleasure and engaging in sustained reading through new and exciting books, she aims to provide benefits that will flow on to other aspects of their learning. Sarah is keen on learning and continually improving her knowledge and skills in the library profession. She achieves this through networking, being an active committee member of her professional organisation, which is WASLA, as well as reading current research. As an educator and librarian, library technician, Sarah reflects on how students can be supported on their learning journey by the library and how she can support classroom teachers in their educational role. Sarah is the most worthy recipient of the 2021 WASLA Library Technician of the Year Award.
I'll only say a few words. This is a complete honour. I took a risk and did a career change about 5 years ago, and my first school I ended up at is a beautiful school, and I've got such a supportive staff there. Being the sole person can be a bit lonely at times, but I work with a great team of teachers and family, and yeah, the community supports me. So they've been giving me high fives, little elbow taps. The kids have been hugging my legs. They're excited for me tonight, so that's lovely.
Take that and show everyone tomorrow.
Teacher Librarian of the Year, Daryl Fernandez from Perth College. Come up, Daryl. Daryl has demonstrated. Yeah.
Thank you.
Has demonstrated himself to be an exemplary practitioner in his position as teacher librarian. His commitment to the school, the library, and above all the students themselves is evident in both design and delivery of his teaching programs. Daryl is an integral part of our cohesive and collegial library team, and that was written by Jonathan Dutton, the librarian. Across the almost 40 years, although you don't look like you've been teaching for 40 years, I've been teaching for 25, and I'm Across the almost 40 years that Daryl has been a member of the teaching fraternity, he has worked across all sectors and in many different roles. And I can't tell you about all the roles that Daryl has done in the last 40 years. It's just, there's a lot, but you'll read about it in IC3 when
No, I'm going to tell them what we're doing.
All right. This breadth of experience speaks volumes for the value that he adds to his role as teacher librarian. He currently provides a pivotal link between the library resources and services, overseeing the operation of both the junior and senior libraries. An important aspect of this role is the design and review of teaching programs, physical space and digital tools to produce optimal outcomes for the student. Daryl is also currently teaching in the learning enrichment area, facilitating the integration of digital and information skills with various subjects and across all years. This occurs through coordinating the availability of suitable library resources and offering one-on-one tutoring, along with proof, reading, referencing assistance and editing of student work. Daryl keeps himself busy by making effective use of LibGuide's platform to curate library resources and online information, planning workshops for the development of student skills in library related learning technologies, developing a literature program for students across all year levels, including the coordination of special events such as visiting authors and storytellers, running a lunchtime book club whose members keenly recommend titles for the library collection, engaging reluctant readers to participate in the selection of periodicals and novels to cater for special interests and hobbies. And he has developed an information and digital skills continuum chart to monitor all of this. He has developed an information and digital skills continuum chart to monitor the progress of student competencies from years 3 to years 10, all in his current position. Daryl Fernandez is a committed, enthusiastic and knowledgeable advocate for the profession of teacher librarianship, and in these difficult economic times should be applauded for his determination to continue being an exemplary role model. Daryl is a very worthy recipient of the 2021 Wasler Teacher Librarian of the Year Award. Congratulations.
High-end technology for you. I didn't know this, but this is your life.
That shows how old I am and you actually.
I would firstly like to thank Wasler and the committee members who are always so willing to give up their limited slice of time from their equally busy and important commitments, and to continue to support our specialised field of work in school libraries here in WA. I'd also like to thank the award judges for organising and overseeing the stringent process of nomination and selection for all of these awards here in 2021. I think the last time I appeared before judges, I heard someone from the gallery cry out, "He's guilty, he's guilty." So having said that, I would like to thank my parole officer for allowing me to be here this evening. His name is John Garnett, and I believe it's live stream, so hi John. And he is actually our Director of ICT at Perth College, or the GWM, as I like to refer to him, the Grand Webmaster, in the staff room when he's not around. So now that he knows, thanks John, I hope that's okay with you. Having worked in government schools and private schools in this state for over 30 years, 39 years, 40 years now, as I've been told, I'm both humbled and honoured to be receiving this award. But I'd like everyone in this room to please know that I accept this award as an acknowledgement of the dedicated efforts and importance of all teacher librarians and library staff in schools. For we know, what I've come to acknowledge, is that in our workplace, we are interbeings, and that is that we're ultimately interdependent on each other in some shape or form. And for any one of us to continue to be successful and to progress and to be efficient and to be effective in our lives, we need to work together. And I think that we need to continue to support the teaching and learning and to offer terrific and engaging information and digital fluency programs for our students ultimately. And also, of course, for the organisations in which we're placed, so that we are addressing their strategic plans and so on. I'm extremely grateful for this recognition afforded to me in this instance, but this award represents a validation, I think, for all teacher librarians in their professional work, their specialist knowledge and professional engagement, that all of us in this venue, I know, are so committed to, and providing these efficient and effective, wonderful services within education for our students, our staff, our parents and the wider community. In my own backyard over the years, I've been so pleased that on my journey through education that I've worked alongside, worked under some most wonderful people, and I want to have this opportunity to acknowledge some of them. And I do wish to mention some names here. And out of respect, I I know that some of these individuals have passed on, but I say this with the greatest respect in naming. Individuals such as Dr. Laurie McGrath, Claire Menkins, Lindley Kemeny, Imogen Garner, Kathy Scott, Lorraine Hume, Prue Mitchell, Norma Jeffrey, Dr. Laurel Ann Clive, Carol Maswell, Barbara Stout, Gary Green, Evita Glover, Peter Barnes, Norma Pierce, Susan Treadgold, Claire Bentley, Lisa Lee, Leonie Malkovany, just to name a few. There are so many other names that I haven't mentioned. It's due to time limitations. And if I'm being honest with myself, it may be more of a case of an early set of old timers. For someone I need to remind me about some of the names that I've forgotten. In saying this, my appreciation must also go to the fabulous library team that I work alongside at Perth College. That's Phyllis Payoff, Jonathan Dutton and Leanne Wolford, in their nomination of my name for consideration for this award this year. To me, this action serves as a clear example of a team effort in stepping up and leading our profession's cause and supporting this specialist area within our schools for our educators and leaders to know about the value and critical pivotal importance of the role played by teacher librarians and library staff within education. Decision makers need to be aware of the tireless efforts undertaken by associations like WASLA, AILA, IGA, no, not IGA, sorry. I put that in my notes. My shopping list. And any other library organisations who are doing their utmost to maintain a high standard and placing added value to our profession. And I think we should be all thankful for that. And while it's reassuring to know that we all know about our own professional self-worth, we do need to keep reminding, I think, our leaders, our politicians, our school administrators, the executives, to continue to tweak their staffing formulas in order to increase the number of qualified teacher librarians, resource teachers and library staff by creating and building new tertiary courses, revamping teacher education to include school libraries and digital fluency and literacy. Hybrid roles require a future investment to build these into our strategic plans, some solid approach to developing a good, well-resourced school library. And you can do this by employing qualified staff into school libraries and to create effective programs that incorporates specific skills required for our students and our future. I want to be able to nurture in our students and encourage them to have a lifelong love of learning, along with the digital skills and information skills, to be able to locate, evaluate and reflect on the authenticity of information and knowledge for their academic and recreational pursuits. I heard just recently that ACAR are considering removing subjects like ancient history and possibly geography. And I know when I came through, art history was part of the curriculum and that was also removed. Now I can say with conviction that ideally in a perfect world, it would be paramount to have educators with library qualifications at our helm in school libraries. And a mix of teaching and non-teaching qualified and experienced librarians, library staff, for school libraries to be able to efficiently and successfully support the curriculum and programs for our students, teachers, and the wider school community. Interestingly, I noted that on the global literacy ladder, Australia has shifted from 27th place over the last 6 or 7 years to being on the 21st place in these recent times. Now that's a good journey for us, but we still, I believe, feel that we have a long such a privileged country as ours to possibly see us in a much to aim for third place on the global ladder future. Now this venture, I feel, won't come easy because the torrent of change is ever rapid and we are frequently being led by futurist educational thinkers, technologists, and what I refer to as the predictor dabblers to try and accept and introduce creative directions such as hybrid classrooms, paperless library, to integrate costly high-end technologies into schools, even when they aren't able to afford it. And we are also knowing that there are many disadvantaged students with disadvantaged backgrounds who are hardly able to still read, write, spell, or able to string a sentence together. Now, please don't get me wrong. I'm certainly not saying no to progress or to change or to technology or not to embrace the change that's occurring. I mean, to have a creative, funky school community hub, which is inclusive of libraries, breakout spaces, cafe-style learning, research hubs, wall-to-wall LCD, LED screens, they all have a place in our educational settings. But what I'm asking is for us to make it a part of our professional practice to conduct our own research about these innovative concepts or emerging technological shifts, to test it, to question it, find clear evidence, perhaps seek exemplars in other school libraries, talk to your colleagues, to maintain your professional reading, visit library websites and school library websites and social network professionally. It's imperative that we prepare our young students' minds and future so that they can be informationally and digitally skilled. Now, at this point in history, the physical book collection remains defiantly silent in Australian school libraries, and I wonder, should we remove this traditional piece of technological innovation, which actually has been around alongside new emerging technology? Now, this is something that technological flux, offering schools a sign of urgent and much needed progress? Or is it somehow adding to the distraction and confusion over the other fundamental priorities for learners, such as writing, reading, literacy skills, and most of all, to encourage the enjoyment of literature in their pursuit of lifelong learning? In my opinion, it's right to be open to change and new ideas. However, in letting our educational leaders to continue to lead us, all I'm asking all of you and for the associations, which we've been trying so hard to do, is to not be hesitant and reluctant to this change, but to ask questions, to challenge new directions, advocate, be part of the decision-making teams in your school, and to contribute your professional knowledge, experience, expertise, and be the voice for your school library. Better still, why not initiate a change in the right direction yourselves? We know that new and emerging technologies is part of our lives and will continue to evolve, transform, and be integrated into schools as other technologies become obsolete and possibly recycled. Speaking of sustainability and recycling technology, for those of us who commenced careers in a school library back in the days with those wooden draw cards, the card catalogue, remember they had those metal rods to hold the record cards in place? The card catalogue, this bit of technology, lasted for us about 150 years. And before it was replaced by automated library catalogue systems, which was around about 1985 or in the 80s. Now, I recycled those metal rods, and in case you didn't know, they make great giant barbecue skewers over a fire at barbecues. Now, the manual arts teacher, I suspect, took the wooden drawers to his chisel and metal cutting instruments. So you may well wonder what shape or form the school library and its catalogue is likely to look like in another 150 years. We just do not know, do we? Will we have a school library on Mars? I've wondered about that.
Better have.
We just don't know.
We better have.
As we're all on this technological journey, whilst working in school libraries, I would like to end this brief acceptance speech. And to be honest with you, I typed this up in about a period and a half today. I want to leave you with something, and this is from Leonie McVanney's website. And she quoted Israel Moore Ayabor. Does anyone know this quote? Show the world that you are not here to just pass through. Leave great footprints wherever you pass and be remembered for the change you initiated. And I thank you so much for this question.
That was great, Daryl. Thank you. I know who to ask to write my speeches in the future. Okay, with great pleasure, I'd like to present the School Library of the Year to Linwood Senior High School Library.
Up you go. Up you go.
We're a team.
And there's more.
Sorry, hang on, Sarah. There you go.
I can't move the.
I'll get you somebody to hold it.
Okay, Carol's this way, please. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, don't drop it. Would you like to look up, please? Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I don't know all your names. Awesome. Thank you, Carol.
Stay there. Hang on.
Daryl, that was a fabulous.
You were on my list.
Oh!
If you can just help me back to my car.
You don't have to worry about it, I'm here. So I'll just pass it on. Look, because there's a few of us up here, my speech is considerably shorter than last year. So I'm sure you'll be glad about that. But, you know, this is our team. We work so well together and you think, wow, this is a big team. Well, there are two missing. You know, I've got my mother-in-law over here, Helen, who does volunteer work 4 days a week, and we have Pauline, who's not here. We have Ipita, we have Linda, Henny, Margaret, Kylie, and Sorrel, and together we make this wonderful library team. So, yeah, we work well together. So I am going to give a little speech, and thank you for listening. And if I forget anything, team. All right. It is a great honour to accept the 2021 WASLA Award for the West Australian School Library Team of the Year. We would like to thank WASLA and the Awards Committee for recognising the work that our unique library team does. We would also like to acknowledge our principal, Jerry Hardy, who has continually encouraged our library and this team approach. Your support is never taken for granted, Jerry. Thank you.
You're very welcome, ladies.
To the deputies, holders and teachers who helped to validate our application for this award, and to our teaching colleagues within each of the learning areas whom we work closely with on a daily basis to improve student academic outcomes, we appreciate all of our professional interactions with you. We are a team that is not just surviving, we are thriving. Collectively, the library staff have provided, get this, 159 years of service to Linwood Senior High School community. And 5 of our team members have been working together for the last 20 years. And that's conservative. It's actually more than that. It's a nice round number. Being an agile team with a growth mindset has enabled us to adapt to change by listening carefully to our clients' needs, being on the front foot, and proactively seeking to assist and value add. We work effectively as a team to assist learning areas to maximise student outcomes, and we work strategically to support all teams within our school. We shy away from being a passive, on-demand resource. If we look at the practical guide, Driving School Improvement 2017, Macklin and Zabar are quite clear about characteristics of the effective team. Our team embodies these characteristics, namely through having an effective decision-making process, being organised and using consistent procedures to guide our operations, constantly striving for active and balanced participation, monitoring our own performance via clear business plan targets, effective goal setting, and implementation of constructive feedback, clearly defining our roles and responsibilities, and promoting open and clear communication, all with a comfortable, relaxed, and trusting atmosphere. These characteristics guide us in our everyday practices to serve our clientele and thrive as a progressive library. I thank you very much for listening. Thank you to WASLA. We're very appreciative of this award.
In front of you. Left, top, yes, there, there.
Thank
We
you.
can take the peak level off that.
Thank you very much.
Are
Okay.
you, would you like me to read it?
Are we?
Yes.
Sandy, are we?
Yeah.
Getting decision?
This award recognises and honours an exceptional school library team whose professional practice has a positive impact on student achievement and information literacy within their school, and who also engages with the wider school library community. Linwood Senior High School Library stands out as one of those exceptional school libraries that supports lifelong learning in the teaching and programs that it provides. The library team consists of 4 teacher librarians and 4 library officers. I'm so jealous. I think a lot of us are. Their teamwork enables them to consistently reflect on what the needs of their students are and how they can support literacy through the curriculum. The Linwood Senior High School Library team has a thorough understanding of their student cohort and the needs of their students. Due to the high non-English speaking backgrounds with over 60 different languages, all the teacher librarians have been trained in explicit instruction, teaching English in the mainstream classroom, tactical writing, guided reading, HITS, which is a high impact teaching strategies, and advanced instructional intelligence program. This is a team that strives to reflect on their library services through programming, planning, acting, and reviewing. The library team uses researching data to guide the usefulness of their program. The library staff promote literacy through the variety of programs, including the Reading Appreciation Program, which supports individual students through assessment and monitoring student reading. The teacher librarians ensure that they support information literacy and digital literacy by collaborating with teachers in other curriculum areas and the Linwood Intensive English Centre. The library staff also manage the online testing of ACES, PAT-R, PAT Science and eWrite for all students at Linwood Senior High School and the ULNA Intensive Program. The library team assists by developing resources to support these students in their reading and writing skills. Linwood Senior High School Library supports the social, cultural and developmental backgrounds of their students through the school's calendar of events, through chess competition, book club, Olna Breakfast Club, Book Week and Homework Club, to name a few. The Linwood Senior High School Library team is to be commended for their dedication to providing a library service that assists not only individual students but the staff and the wider community. The Linwood Senior High School Library team is a very worthy recipient of the 2021 WASLA School Library Team of the Year So each of these awards in each category, there will be a write-up in the IC3 that is coming out at the end of this term. But for brevity's sake, I couldn't tell everything that the awarding been doing in this school library. So look forward to your next edition of IC3. Tamara Rogers, or Tamara Reeves, as she's known online, has been involved in education for nearly 20 years. She started her career as a high school English teacher with a passion for literature and student welfare. She retrained as a teacher librarian and worked as a TL in a wonderfully diverse and engaging school in Western Sydney before taking on the challenge of running the New South Wales Premier's Reading Challenge. This aims to encourage students to develop a lifelong love of reading for leisure and pleasure. She's currently the New South Wales Premier's Programs Officer in charge of both the Premier's Reading Challenge and the Premier's Spelling Bee. She loves reading widely, having recently rediscovered her love of comics, and has never met a piece of writing by Neil Gaiman that she doesn't adore with her whole heart and soul. I kind of met Tamara at the Neil Gaiman presentation that he was doing.
It was last
year.
February,
Yeah.
just before the world went
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
And when you were allowed to see people in real life. So yes,
Yes, it was great.
It
So
was
Teach
lovely.
Librarians gone wild at Neil Gaiman.
Yeah. Okay, let me just switch over to my thingy. Go. Using the same photo. Okay. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. It's quite surreal presenting to actual people because I've been working from home for about 15 months. So to get through an entire presentation without being told that someone's on mute is going to seem very strange. It's a pleasure to be here. And I know that we've already done an acknowledgement of country, but I cannot speak this year without talking about this extraordinary piece of artwork, which is the poster for the 2021. It was designed by Bronwyn Baker, who is a proud Bundjalung woman, an artist, and it was an extraordinary privilege to get to work with Bronwyn on designing this piece of artwork, which reflects the passage of stories through Australia from the traditional owners of the land through history onto current storytellers and out into the community. And I think it's really reflective of the work that we do as teacher librarians and library staff, and something that I'm really passionate about in terms of sharing of our stories. So what I'm going to do in New South Wales, and this lovely building is basically where I discovered my love of libraries. I had a teacher librarian in my primary school who told me when I was about 7 that the book that I wanted to borrow was not appropriate for me. And so, rebellious little thing that I was, refused to never borrow anything from him again. But this was our council library, and only to kind of here. So on that side was something else, but half of the building was a library. And a couple of years ago, I was going back through town to go to a family funeral, and I stopped by and went into the library and was struck at just how tiny it was. It's probably about half the size of this room. But when I was a kid, it didn't feel tiny. It felt cavernous, like it was the place that I went to escape. And that's the thing that strikes me the most about the power of stories when you're a kid, is that they help you to escape from things that may not be so great in your life. They help you to discover other aspects of your life. It gives you like an unlimited potential where you can connect with that part of your soul that longs for adventure in the great wide summer. I was and still am fundamentally an introvert who hates talking in front of people. I was much more comfortable with fictional interactions. My best friends were people like Judy Blume's Margaret, Harper Lee's Scout, Jennifer Forth. I inherited my mother's collection of old British school books where kids went off to boarding school and had wonderful adventures. And they were my best friends when I was at school. And so that was how I discovered my love of libraries. My high school librarian was a very different beast to my primary school librarian. This is her. She's the teacher librarian I want to be when I grow up. Kathleen Hopton, who has since retired, but I still run into every so often, had a healthy disregard for her own library's rules about borrowing, and used to let me take a lot more books than I should have been. She had a keen interest in ensuring that teenage me never wanted for something interesting, challenging, or new to read, whether it was indeed a new release that she tucked away waiting for the next time I popped by the library, or an old favourite of hers that she felt it was just the right time for me to discover. She was a joy, and she was the person who kept me sane and safe and loved throughout high school. One of the things that fascinates me most about the literary world is that
that we get to explore that completely absorbing power of stories. The way that one person's experiences interact with another and create something magical. In my life, I've been blessed to have some really incredible and amazing stories to interact with. I'm the mother of a son who turns 27 this year and is completely obsessed with military history. I feel increasingly dwarfed by my 21-year-old daughter who makes fangirling an art form and is committed to turning everyone around her into a much better social justice warrior than they were before she met them. And I have an 18-year-old daughter who's a dancer and has no interest in reading books at all, but has recently discovered Harry Styles fan fiction. And so I'm learning to be okay with that. Because she will go, Mum, but I'm reading. Yes, you're reading. And my partner, who lives over here in Perth and is the reason that I was able to be here. I didn't just fly from Sydney to come and hang out with you all. No, shipped me in personally. He makes me proud to share his story every day, from his gaming and crafting obsessions to his passion for Star Wars and his penchant for embracing every book he reads out loud to me as part of our long-distance date nights by finding the best voice for every character and conveying emotions in his narration far better than I think I'm capable of. I can't believe I'm getting like a little weepy over that. It's the first time I've actually said that out loud. He's a joy though. He was supposed to be here. I wish the year older get to meet him, but he got called away. My career in education started in a coveted position at St Andrews College in Sydney before I was appointed to Evans High School, which is a co-educational public school in Western Sydney, where I spent 10 years as an English teacher, then another 4 years as teacher librarian before commencing my current role as PRC officer. I loved being a teacher librarian better than any job I've ever had, and will eventually be getting back to it. And I really loved being a teacher librarian at Evans. Evans was approximately 80% students from, see, I told you I hate speaking in public and it's kicking in right about now. 80% students of language backgrounds other than English, coming from over 30 different nationalities and cultural backgrounds. And we had a small but strong and proud Indigenous population of about 5%. I also taught in collaboration with our school's autism support unit, who were basically in charge of the design of some beautiful spaces in our library, from our Zen garden to our beanbag cushions and stuff. And Evans kids were a diverse bunch. We had kids that came from families that valued reading to families who didn't read at all. Families who valued Xboxes and new mobile phones over stories. We had families that were students were the primary English speakers and the primary carers. But we had one thing in common, that it was a really fantastic and beautifully diverse community, and that they got to find a home in the library at Evans. In my current role as PRC officer, my reach has expanded beyond the boundaries of the fences at Evans, covering an even more diverse scope of the whole of New South Wales. So we service 2,800 schools from both government, non-government and homeschool sectors, 17,000 teacher coordinators, and I get to craft the direction of a reading challenge program that encourages students from kindergarten up to year 10 to engage with a love of reading for leisure and pleasure. In fact, in 2020, despite the complications of COVID, we had 426,000 students participate in the challenge, reading 8.7 million books. I'm not a stats person, I'm an English teacher, but I really like saying that number, 8.7 million books. So when people tell me kids don't like to read, I usually follow that up with some expletives that I won't, because I know we're going live.
Yeah, please don't. I don't know how to beep.
That's very. And Felicia's already mentioned my love of Neil Gaiman. Why am I telling you all this? I know there's lots of stuff about me. I think it's important because this is my story, and I'm utterly obsessed with how important stories are in the world that we inhabit. And we often, when we're thinking about stories in a library context, we think about the ones on the shelf, but we don't think about the human stories. And I want us to really think about the human stories, and not just yours, but the people that you work with, the students that you get to engage with every day, because they are immeasurably important. And so as we're thinking about that, I want us to think about the ways in which, completely lost my train of thought. The ways in which all of those stories can contribute to create the really beautiful stories of our libraries that we're working in. Because everyone's story gets to contribute to everyone else's story, and we can't walk away from that untouched. In our current educational climate, where principals and schools have greater autonomy over staffing choices, greater flexibility in deciding on the role that the library will have in the life of the school, if any, it's of critical importance that we, as the primary voice of our wonderful libraries, make sure that we tell our stories. We make sure that we share the wonderful successes that occur within the special walls of our libraries. We celebrate the magic and wonder that libraries can bring to the lives of their students, and indeed the teachers who make them a part of their lives. We reflect on our role, and we take time to celebrate that. And I think this is the perfect opportunity to do that. I kind of feel like I could have just used your speech as mine, and we would have been okay. Because everything that you talked about is what I want to share. I do like a good fangirl. So basically everything that is going to follow is me parroting the researcher that I would like to be when I grow up, the wonderful Margaret Meager. And I really feel like I stalk Margaret just a little bit too much, but so far we don't have a restraining order, so we're all good. Margaret Meager's book, Reading Engagement for Teens and Tweens, is basically my Bible. And that, along with Megan Daly's Raising Readers, if you don't have access to copies of both of those books, feel free to tune out for the next 10 or 15 minutes and go to Booktopia or your local bookstore and order them while I'm talking, because they're totally worth adding to your professional library as well as your personal library. I have copies both at home and at work because I think they are incredible. And so we've talked about our stories and how important they are. So I want to just focus a little bit on how we focus on why reading matters for students and how we can help them engage with reading. So blah, 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 really interesting and important things that you already know because you're library professionals, right? It helps you develop a sense of interpersonal skills, better mental health and well-being. I don't need to preach to the choir here, right? They're all very important and very meaningful. And if you need something to go back to your schools and sell your principal on, allowing you to do some silent sustained reading or some reading for pleasure, this is what you need to tell them. But this is why I think reading matters. Because you're finding out something as you read that will be vitally important for making your way in the world. And it's this: the world doesn't have to be like this. Things can be different. There's something utterly transformational about engaging in stories, whether there's the stories that we share with each other or the stories that we engage with in books. And I'm really disappointed for you all. I feel like I'm a dodgy booby prize that you don't get to listen to Sally Murphy speak, because Sally's book, Worst Things, was one of the most lovely books that I read last year. And if you've not read it, can I please encourage you to get it and read it? It's the first novel, super quick read. And I remember when I read it and I got to the end of the book, and I won't give you any spoilers, but I just kind of sat there just going, That's what good words can do. Like, I felt something, and I got to feel what life was like for three people who were very different to me, but I knew what their lives were like as I walked through the pages of that book with them. This is what a good story can do. More blah blah blah. So I'm just going to. There are a lot of slides like this over the next few minutes, and I'm not going to talk through all of them. I'm just going to pick my favourite that we can dive into. And for me, the most important social, psychological, and emotional characteristics of reading over the past 12 months has been escapism and mental health. I'm sure that you've heard about this little thing called COVID that's been going around. I know that in WA you were all slightly more protected than the rest of us, particularly those people in Victoria, but in New South Wales we went through quite a few lockdowns. And the only way that I survived the stress of that was as I was working from home, so completely isolated because I live by myself, is that I have access to really great library books. Both the books that I have on my shelf, but my local libraries, and the ability to not necessarily therapize myself, but just take attention away from the stresses of life was an extraordinary privilege. And one of the things that we were struggling with as we were running the PRC through 2020 was, how do we support our students who don't have that privilege? How do we make sure that the kids who don't have access to books at home get to make sure that they get that comfort and joy themselves? For me, that's the most extraordinary reason to make sure that you're engaging with reading. Reading helps you be smarter and do stuff better. And our teachers and our principals love to hear that. But for me, I think the idea of reading as a habit, entertainment, and pleasure, something that we do because we love it, is the most powerful reason to encourage students to read, because kids don't care that they're going to be better at their maths tests if they read for 15 minutes a day. Like, some do. My stepdaughter totally cares. It's the only reason she reads is because she wants to be smarter. She knows that will help her out, but she's a rare and bizarre and wonderful breed. Most people just want to do stuff because it's fun. So for me, that's probably the most powerful thing. I don't know about you, but in my school library experience, getting kids who love to read is super easy. The problem is getting kids who don't love to read to read. And so I'm really fascinated with Margaret Merger's approach on how we encourage reluctant readers. And one of the things that I always found the most effective was, I don't have to tell kids that you're going to love reading as much as I need to show them that I love it. That I talk to them about how incredible, oh my God, this book is so brilliant. No, you can't have it yet. I promise that someone else is going to read it first, but it was the best thing, and kids would think that they were wasting time in class because they were getting me to go on a spiel about my book, but I was totally okay with that because they were getting to hear that reading could be passionate and exciting. So talking about reading in terms of pure joy, not just you need to have read the first 5 chapters because you have a test next week, is really critical. I really love hearing throughout the conversations about the award recipients some of the strategies that the award recipients have used for already developing student-centered opportunities for discussions around books. And in the interest of time, I'm going to skip over this slide, but can I say encouraging students to be the ones who are in charge of those decisions about what books you read is totally worth it.
Deborah Hogg was my teacher librarian when I was at school.
Really?
Yeah.
Debbie's one of my best friends.
Yeah.
She will think that's the best thing ever.
Yeah.
She's the librarian
Yeah,
here.
she's
in
Yes.
South Wales. Yeah, she's incredible. One of the things that I encourage every person who works not only in a library but in a school to do is to make sure that you know what's out there in the field of children's and YA books. I didn't used to read a lot of middle grade fiction, even when my kids were middle graders. It's only been in the past 5 years that I've discovered what a sheer joy middle grade books are. Plus, they help bump up my reading challenge tally. If I'm falling a bit behind and you know I want to make it look like I read lots more this year than I actually did. But making sure that you're aware not only what's being published but what kids are interested in, I think is critically important. More important than that is knowing the students that you're dealing with. Know their stories, know what they're interested in, and make sure that your decisions about text selection, about activities in your library are guided by the students that you're working with. I just expect that kids that I work with are readers. Yeah, I don't try and encourage them to read. I don't try and talk them into it. I just give them a book and say, I'll make you a hot chocolate. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Let me know what you're up to. You know, if we expect things of students, they're more likely to live up to it. And encouraging parental and family support where possible is really important in that. It's great and all to have fantastic strategies around encouraging reading in your schools and in your students, but if there's not the time for that, then it's really difficult for students to be able to do that. So I think that using all of those things that I skipped over earlier about the positive benefits for reading to encourage your exec to recognise the value of silent, sustained reading time just for the sake of reading, not so they can answer a multiple choice question or a fill out a reading log or whatever, just because reading is what you're doing now is absolutely worth it. And I think for me, in terms of the framework of the families that we were working with at Evans, one of our big challenges was that a lot of the families were not readers. So we needed to support families to support their kids to become readers. So making sure that they had access to books at home, that they knew how to access books at their local libraries, and that they were able to borrow books for a reasonable length of time. I'm shocked and appalled. I hope none of you do this. When I hear of really restrictive library fines and people being told you can't borrow another book because you didn't bring the other one back on time, and I had someone tell me at a recent conference that they were about to reduce their borrowing time to 1 week because they were sick of their kids taking too long with the books. I thought she was joking, and I kind of laughed, and she was like, "Oh no, it's a very big problem at my school." Like, it's a problem that your students
Wanna
have
read.
for longer to read. Okay, so mentally made a note to not recommend any of my friends to send their kids there. But, you know,
Until she goes.
it's something to think about. How do we encourage readers to know what to read? I think that this is something for me. And can I draw your attention to the second last point from the bottom? Model how long to persist with a book that isn't immediately appealing. I'm just picking this one because it struck a chord with me very recently, where a book came through for review that should have been in my book. It was a fictional retelling of the life of Mary Shelley, check. Steampunk, check. Like, the cover, I can't imagine, would have been the prettiest thing to Instagram. And I got about 3 chapters in and I was like, this is not good. I'm not enjoying it. And I don't give up on books. And so I was talking to my partner and he said, do you have to read it? Like, can someone else review it? And I still feel just like a little ache inside me that I I kind of went, well, I always finish books. But to get to a point where you can encourage kids to realize that you can say no, like informed consent is a thing. So, so if you don't want to continue engaging with this book, it is okay to put it down. Tomorrow, it is okay to put it down. Modeling that kind of thing for your students is really important and really critical. I wish that I had more time to talk about this, because one of the things that we really struggled with is how do we encourage parents to read with their kids when the parents can't read? Whether it's because of literacy issues, or whether English is their third language and they are working 2 jobs and there is no one else at home to help with the kids. So we put in place a few strategies that I wish that I had had more time to carry through. Things like afternoon tea sessions where we would feed the kids, and the parents would come in and we'd do some collaborative reading, and kids will get to count that on their reading record time. Providing students and parents with access to audiobooks. There's a whole range of podcast short stories out at the moment that are incredible and about 15 to 20 minutes long, so they're great for the drive to school. So encouraging students and parents to find ways that they can access stories in ways that are going to work for them, I think is really an extraordinary, powerful thing. And encouraging staff buy-in. I think the biggest success that I ever had was getting a very reluctant PE teacher, because I promised him that I would buy him a coffee every morning. We had dear time, drop everything and read during roll call, and he was always on his phone for that 15 minutes. So I told him that if I picked a book for him and he read it for 15 minutes, I would provide him with his coffee every morning for a week. And at the end of the week, we finished Dear, and I was like, okay, I'll take the book back to the library now. Thanks. He was like, can I just finish it? And he didn't end up reading a lot, but he read during Dear time. Getting staff buying in to support your school as a reading culture is critical and important. References, basically, Margaret Nogar, Rockstar, and Megan Daly's book. I just really want to encourage you to think about how valuable the stories are that are surrounding you in your everyday life, and how you can connect those stories of the students and teachers that you're working with the stories that are going to speak to their soul. Because what we do as teacher librarians and as library staff is of unparalleled importance in a really busy world. And because it helps you with your mental capacity and blah, 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 but just because reading is the most extraordinary way to craft yourself the kind of life that you want to have. I am around on things. Feel free to get in touch. Thank you very much.
This is why I wanted a PLC WA. I need to push it.
Thank you so much for that. That was great, wasn't it?
Yes. Do you want to move the camera?
It's all right. I was going to say that looks very much like wine. I'm very, very happy about
That's too dark, hang on. Lovely, thank you, girls.
You couldn't have got the photo before. My face was all like red and
No, it's not red.
I don't know.
Only like I made, like I picked with it.
That's why we need to push for PRC here in WA.
Yeah. So and this is the thing, you'll absolutely need a PRC here in WA, because I'm moving over in about 12 months and I'm going to need a job. So either PRC or I'll be knocking on doors for a teacher position. If anyone needs someone, I'll be here. Well, thank you so much
Thank you so much for attending tonight's award ceremony, and tomorrow's presentation was fantastic. Thank you so much much also to the WASLA committee and the awards committee for helping organise tonight. It was just so many people did so many things to get everything organised. So I really, really appreciate your time and energy and effort and that. So thank you so much to if you guys would like to go and have a tour of the library, I guess that's it. WASLA committee, if you guys can have a tour of the library and then come back after, we'll have like a quick 10-15 minute meeting. But the library, from what I've heard, is fantastic. So it's well worthwhile. And thank you so much for attending again. Thanks.
I'm going to end the stream.
Is it private?